A very good morning, I bid to one and all. Today, we'd like to discuss about the effect of COVID-19 pandemic on online learning. The COVID-19 pandemic in Malaysia is a pandemic that is hitting the world due to severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus. To date, Malaysia is in third place in the number of COVID-19 infection cases and also the number of deaths due to the COVID-19 in Southeast Asia after Indonesia and the Philippines. As of October 20, year 2021, there are a total of 2.4 million cases that have been confirmed in Malaysia, with a total of 2.3 million cases have fully recovered and 28,138 cases of death and 81,955 cases are still active.
In my opinion, coronavirus disease is an infectious disease caused by the SARS virus. Most people who fall sick with COVID 19 will experience mild and moderate symptoms and recover without attention. Symptoms of COVID 19 are variable but often include fever, cough, headache, fatigue, breathing difficulties, and loss of smell and taste. Friends, do you all know what are we facing in this COVID-19 pandemic?
Pandemic? What is that pandemic?
A pandemic is an epidemic of an infection diseases that has spread across a large region, for instance, multiple continents or worldwide, if affecting a high number of individuals. A widespread endemic disease with a stable number of infected individuals is not a pandemic. A dictionary of epidemiology, as Vox pointed out last year, defines a pandemic as an epidemic occurring worldwide or over a very wide area crossing international boundaries and usually affecting a large number of people with more than 191 million cases reported to a date in countries around the world. No doubt meets that general definitions of global spread of a disease.
Yes, there has been some grappling over the year about precise definition of pandemic and how severity of disease should be considered in declaring. Multiple experts told us they had not heard of US government changing some official definition of the word for the sake of funding. Kirtana, what do you think about the causes of COVID-19 to spread?
The virus can spread from an infected person's mouth or nose in small liquid particles when they cough, sneeze, speak, sing, or breathe. These particles range from larger respiratory droplets to smaller aerosols. You can be affected by virus if you are near someone who had COVID-19 or by touching a contaminated surface and then your eyes, nose or mouth. The virus spreads more easily indoors and in crowded settings also.
Yes, I totally agree with your point because current evidence suggests that the virus spreads mainly between people who are in close contact with each other, typically with 1 meter. The virus can also spread in poorly crowded indoor settings where people tend to spend longer periods of time. This is because aerosols remain suspended in the air or travel further than 1 meter. As you say just now, people may also become infected by touching surfaces that have been contaminated by the virus, when touching their eyes, nose, or mouth without cleaning their hands.
COVID-19 affects different people in different ways. Most infected people will develop mild to moderate illness, recover without hospitalization. Most common symptoms of COVID-19 are, as I said, fever, cough, tiredness, and loss of taste or smell. There are also some less common symptoms of COVID 19, such as sore throat, headache, aches and pains, diarrhea, or rash on the skin. The most serious symptoms that we should know are difficulties in breathing or shortness of breath, loss of speech, or mobility and chest pain.
Yes, you are right. But there are some ways to prevent COVID-19. Firstly, seek immediate medical attention if you have serious symptoms. You can always call before visiting your doctor or health facility. People with mild symptoms who are otherwise healthy should manage their symptoms at home. On average, it takes 5 to 6 days from when someone is infected with the virus for, for symptoms to show. However, it can take up to 14 days. Friends, do you think that COVID-19 brought many effects to our country and also to the world from several aspects?
Yes, it is destroying the world's economics, one of them being Malaysia's economy. After undertaking extensive research, here is my opinion of how Malaysia's economy is being terribly affected in terms of its multiple key sectors, exchange rate, stock market, and the actions undertaken by the government to minimize the economic losses. First off, a variety of Malaysia's key sectors are now in distress due to COVID-19. Some of these sectors include Malaysia's manufacturing sector, which, aside from hit with material distribution due to the MCO, is facing a crisis in manufacturing of commodities such as oil and gas by the global crude oil crisis, which has caused oil prices to plummet this year.
Another sector is tourism, which is expected to be hit the hardest. Travelers will be forced to postpone their trips and cancel hotel bookings as well as flight plans, which is a huge loss for Malaysia since it was ranked the third most popular Asian travel destination in 2019. Therefore, this will lower the gross domestic product, which means GDP, as fewer goods and services can be produced in the country. Additionally, the increase in unemployment due to the retractment of employment employees by some companies will reduce the net income and thus GDP as well. COVID 19 will also have a huge impact on the value of ringgit in Malaysia as result of investors who are panic selling to avoid trading in the current violet market. The fall of tourism in Malaysia and the decline in global crude oil prices will reduce the demand for the ringgit, causing its value to drop.
Yeah, the most affected sectors in this case is the students' education section. The COVID-19 crisis has forced education system worldwide to find alternatives to face-to-face instruction. As a result, online teaching and learning have been used by teachers and students to practice to scale. With most teaching methods, online learning will also add additional barriers to this pandemic. Understanding these positives and negatives will help institutes in creating strategy for more efficient delivery of the lessons, ensuring an uninterrupted learning journey for the students. Online study has become a trend and most schools are opting for with each passing day. More so in the wake of COVID-19 lockdown. I am giving you the three essays of very lengths covering the advantages and disadvantages of online studies. You should go through these to know more about all the pros and cons of the online study.
Mm, One of the most often used terms after the pandemic is the term new normal. The new normal in education is the increase of use of online learning tools. The COVID 19 pandemic has triggered new ways of learning. All around the world, educational institutions are looking toward online learning platforms to continue with the process of education students. The new normal now is transform concept of education with online learning at the core of this transformation. Today, digital learning has emerged as a necessary resource for students and schools all over the world. For many educational institutes, this is an entirely new way of education that have had to adopt. Online learning is now applicable not just to learn academics, but it's also extends to learning curricular activities for students as well. In recent months, the demand for online learning has risen significantly, and it will continue doing so in the future. Puvitra, what do you think about the online learning?
Yes, Niran. As with most teaching methods, online learning also has its own set of positives and negatives. Decoding and understanding these positives and negatives will help institutes in creating strategies for more efficiently delivering the lessons, ensuring an interrupted learning journey for the students. First of all, the effects of online learning is efficiency. Online learning offers teachers an efficient way to deliver lessons to the students. Online learning has a number of tools such as video, PDF, podcasts, and so on. Other than that, do you all know that online learning will improve the attendance of the students in the class? Sounds exciting, right? During face to face classes, students need to travel to school to attend the online classes. The normal classes. This will causes the time taken for the traveling, and the students might feel very tired of having continuous classes without any break to relax or spend time for themselves. Online learning mostly won't be a continuous learning to make sure the students could have time to relax, and this will also help the students to concentrate well in their studies. Mostly students who have to communicate with the teachers face to face will have fears to ask questions to the teachers. During online sessions, they will try to communicate with the teachers to make sure they are clear with what they are doing right now. This will make the students to become more friendly with their teachers too. Students will not have any choices than communicating with the teachers. Since online classes can be taken from home or any location that we like, there are fewer chances for students to missing out the lessons. This is because the students can get a better environment to place themselves and concentrate well what they are doing. Mostly in schools, the students will face a problem. Do you all know what is the problem? They might feel uncomfortable with the noisy and disturbing environment, but at house, they might feel very comfortable to learn. Students might willing to join the online classes because they will feel more better and relaxing once they could understand what they are learning right now. Attendance of the students is very important to make sure the education level to increase. Most important part in every school education system is the prestige of the school. The prestige of the school always should increase to a better level. The
Rani,
score of the students will cause the prestige of the school to raise. Prestige of the school is always depend on the student scoring. So the online learning always giving a better chance for the teachers to teach the students well. Teaching students in online is also very easy and also attracting. Teachers who are using interesting methods to teach the students will make the students to involve well in the classes too. Other than that, every student has a different learning journey and a different learning style in online learning. Some students are visual learners, while some students prefer to learn through audio. Similarly, some students will get distracted by large peoples, which means online will be the most best learning for them to focus well in their studies. Online learning will also help the students to improve themselves in digital works. For an example, students who are even worse in electronic devices and apps will learn to use them by studying in online. Students will even learn about presentations in class. This is because the students who are learning in online must do all the presentations in the online classes. Most of the students are even better in applying skills and preparing in their online classes, which means the students are very good in preparing notes in online also. Not only that, students will also learn to be more independent during this online learning. This is because the students who are willing to learn new things will always do more researches to find more details regarding their studies. We can even become a very knowledgeable person when we start learning online. This is because we can learn a lot of new things by learning in online. But we can also learn about more than studies. Some of the students are also becoming more creative because of this online learning. There are also a lot of apps which helping the students in online learning to learn new things in the by the apps. The apps will help the students to improve their skills. The teachers' troubles are reducing because of this online learning. All the students becoming more independent because of these online classes.
that's an interesting perspective, Puvi, and I agree with you. But in my point of view, I think there are a lot of negative effects compared to positive effects. For instance, students' feedback will be limited. In traditional classrooms, teachers can give students immediate face to face feedback. So, students who are experiencing problems in the curriculum can resolve them uh, quickly and directly, either during the lecture or during the dedicated office hours. Personalized feedback has a positive impact on students as it makes learning process easier, richer, and more significant. All the while raising the motivation levels of the students. After that, online learning also, on the other hand, still tend to struggle with student feedback. Students completing regular assessments become dissatisfied when they experience a lack of personalized feedback. The traditional methods of providing students feedback don't always work in an online learning environment, and because of this, online education, providers are forced to look towards alternative methods for providing feedback. Providing students feedback in online setting is still a relatively unsearched topic area, and it might take a while for specific strategies to become fully research based and proven to be effective. After that, um, online learning requires students strong self motivation and time management skills. Lack of self motivation among students continue to be one of the primary reasons why students always fail to complete online courses. In traditional classrooms, there are numerous factors which constantly push students towards their learning goals. Face to face communication with professors, peer to peer activities, and strict schedules all work in unison to keep the students from falling off track during their studies. In the setting of an online learning environment, however, there are fewer external factors which push the student to perform well. In many cases, the students are left to fend for themselves during their learning activities without anyone constantly arguing them on towards their learning goals. Students taking online learning courses will find that they are often required to learn difficult materials in a comfortable home setting without any of the added pressure normally associated with traditional college. As the result, keeping up with regular deadlines during online studies can become difficult for those students who lack strong self motivation and time management skills. Beside that, online learning also lacks the face to face communication. The lack of face-to-face communication ties together with many of previously mentioned disadvantage of online learning. A lack of any kind of face-to-face communication, which the instructor inhibits students' feedback, causes social isolation and could cause students to feel a lack of pressure. A lack of pressure is a disadvantage in sense that it causes students to abandon their studies more easily. Um, Constant nagging by professor may be undesirable for many, but it's an effective method for improving students' retention. Online instructors tend to focus on theory rather than practice. Although this drawback of e-learning is starting to be addressed and fixed by some of more innovative online learning platforms, the problem has yet to disappear completely. The problem in that a large portion of e-learning training providers choose to focus largely, in many cases entirely, on developing theoretical knowledge rather than practical skills. The reason for this is the theoretical lectures are considerably easier to implement in an online learning environment than practical lectures. After all, without face-to-face communication and physical classrooms to use as workshop, implementing practical projects in an online course requires significantly more prior planning the theoretical training.
Sorry for interrupting you, Niranjana. In my point of view, I think that this online learning brought advantages and disadvantages. Firstly, accessibility of time and place. Another advantages of online education is that it allows students to attend their classes from any location of their choice. It is also allows school to reach out to a more extensive network of students, and also instead of being restricted by geographical boundaries. Additionally, online lectures can be recorded, achieved, and shared for future reference. This allows students to access the learning material at a time of their comfort. Thus, online learning offers students the accessibility of time and place in education. Another advantages is affordability. Another advantages of online learning is reduced financial costs. Online education is far more affordable as compared to physical learning. This is because online learning eliminates the cost of boarding, the students' transportation, students' meals, and most importantly, real estates. Additionally, all the costs of study materials are available online, thus creating a paperless learning environment which is more affordable while also being beneficial to the environment. And also there are some disadvantages too. Yeah, that is cheating prevention during online assessments is complicated. Unfortunately, one of the biggest disadvantages of e-learning continues to be cheating through the various methods. Compared to online students can cheat on assessments more easily as they take assessments in their own environment and while using their personal computer. The students cannot be directly observed during the assessments without a video feed, making a cheating detection during online assessment more complicated than for traditional testing procedures. Additionally, without a proper identified verification system in a place, students taking online assessments might be able to let a third party take the assessment instead of themselves, resulting in a wholly fraudulent test result. And then, online instructors tend to focus on theory rather than practice. Although this drawback of e-learning is starting to be addressed, and faced by some of the more innovative online learning platforms, the problem has yet to disappear completely. Then the problem is that a large portion of e-learning training providers choose to focus largely in many cases internally on developing theoretical knowledge rather than practical skills. And then the reason for this is evident. Theoretical lectures are considerably easier to implement in a communication and physical classroom to use a workshop and that implementing practical projects in an online course requires significantly more prior planning than theoretical training.
Yes,
Yes,
I think
I
so
think so
too.
too. Uh,
Does everyone agree that
that
there
there
are
are
positive effects and negative effects in online learning at the same time?
Yes, I agree. Actually, Kirtana really explained very well about the positives and negatives in online learning because of this COVID-19. So, how about you, Kirtana? Do you agree? Sorry,
Sorry,
Kirtan, I
Kirtana,
couldn't
your
hear
mic.
you.
Sorry for that. Yeah, I agree with you all of your opinions and your views. And in a nutshell, I agree that all of the advantages and disadvantages are very fact.
Thank you.
That's all from me.
Hope to meet
Thank you,
you guys
Kirtana.
real soon. See you guys soon.
Thank you, Puvi.
Okay, let's
Thank you,
discuss
Nirvana
about another
and
topic
Pavitra.
next time. Okay,
Okay, sure, sure.
Yeah, sure,
goodbye.
Pavitra. Bye, friends.
Bye.